Good morning everyone and welcome back to Milo Farms. Well, today's the big day. It's July 24th and we're going to harvest the honey. We had to go ahead and separate one of the hives, the hive that used to be on that far end, because we were having such a problem with it getting robbed and it was a weak colony. So we moved it to a different place right nearby, but it's in a separate location, so we still have the 5 hives. That one's still doing fine now that we got the robbing taken care of, but it is not here with these anymore. So we're going to start down on that end, which is now, it's actually the second hive that we've been seeing all the way along, but it's now the first hive in this because the first hive's gone. And so we're going to go ahead and start harvesting that honey. What we've done is we've gone ahead in the garage, we've got our extractor set up, we've got some plastic put down on the ground so any spills that we have won't get all over the place. And then over here we've got the wheelbarrow with some plastic in it that we're going to put the frames into once we get them out of the supers. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So here is one frame that is completely capped honey, all ready to go right there. So we're going to go ahead and take this frame away. Shake the bees off of it first that we can.
Oh, could just be left.
So this upper box that we're in right now is definitely not going to have near as many frames that are completely filled in it.
We're definitely getting a little more lively.
So the second box here should have a ton more honey in it. It looks like all this box is completely filled, ready to go. So we're just going to take them out, check them, get the bees off of them, and then we're going to put them in this other box over my shoulder here.
We still have 7 more boxes to do.
Mm-hmm. So we're just going to keep going along here, pulling all these frames out. As you can see, they're completely capped honey on both sides here. You can see there's a couple spots where we scuffed it up there, pulling it out, but it's going to start kind of dripping. So we're going to keep moving along, trying to get these all out of here. And then we're going to need to get them away and get them into the garage or somewhere where the bees can't get to them so they don't get robbed out. And also so we don't have bees all over the place while we're trying to do the extraction in the garage. Alright, so we're just finishing up here, getting some of the last of them done. We've got all of them done except this one over here to the left of the screen, or excuse me, to the right of the screen. But this is another good frame right here. All honey that's all capped. Both sides looks real nice. So we're going to go ahead on this last one. We want to check and make sure the queen is actually still in there. That's the next one we're going to do as well, because that hive's been acting a little strange lately. And then we'll get the honey off of there, and then the next thing we'll do is the extracting. We're also going to be taking off the queen excluders and then leaving them just with their 2 brood boxes, getting them ready for winter. Alright everyone, welcome back. So we've got all of our frames of honey in the garage here. We had to get them to a place where we were away from the bees, because no matter what, the bees still try to follow them to rob them out and so on. So we've got all of our frames here. We've got, what is there, 4, 5, 6 or 6.5 honey supers worth of frames here. Some of them have a small amount of honey on them, and others have full. So right here's a prime example of one that is primarily full, right here on the back side. So down in here, there just isn't anything in these cells, they're just empty. And you can see that one's quite full there. Here's another example of one that's quite full. Here, on both sides, full and capped. Just a little bit that isn't capped along the bottom there. And so most of them are not quite as full as those, but there's some that are just as full there. So what we're going to do is, we've got our honey extractor here. This is originally a hand crank one. We've adapted a drill to it for right now. If everything goes well, what we're going to do is eventually buy the electric motor that goes on top here. But it was another $200 to do that, and we didn't want to spend any more money on it until we knew this was actually going to work. So this will hold 4 frames, 2 on this side and 2 on this side. And so what you want to do is the opposing 2, you want to get ones that weigh similar, so you don't have it out of balance. So you could, for example, put 2 really heavy ones here and 2 really light ones here, but as long as they're opposing with the same amount of weight. I'm not sure what you call this tool, but this is the tool that you use to uncap the frames. You can do it that way, uncap them, or you can use a bread knife to uncap them, but it's just going to depend. Some of them are down below the wood on the side, so you'll have to use this, and then the ones that are above you can use like a bread knife or something like that. That's what we're going to use today. So we've got a bucket here that we're going to uncap everything into, and then we're going to put it into the extractor. We'll run it on one side, then we'll flip the frames around, run it on the other side. Then this is going to use the centrifugal force to push the honey out of the cells against the walls. It'll run down to the bottom of the barrel, then come out through here through a strainer. There's a large strainer on top, then a smaller strainer on the bottom, then it'll go into that bucket. Then once it's in the bucket, then we're going to take it out and it'll be clean. It won't have any bee parts in it or wax parts or anything like that. Then we're going to dump it into the little bottles that we have for it. So that's our plan. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So this particular one here, we wouldn't really be able to get to it with the knife because the cap part of the comb is right at the edge of the wood here on each side. So we wouldn't even really be able to get in there with a knife. So we just scraped it off there to kind of open them up, and then we're going to go ahead and put it into the extractor. And there's little hooks down there on the bottom that it hangs in. And so that one's ready to go. So then we're going to put one of a similar weight on its opposing side. This one here is a little heavier, so we're going to go ahead and put it on its own side there. Might just try to go ahead and use this uncapping tool on all of it. I don't know if using the bread knife thing's really necessary or not, because we're going to filter the stuff out anyway. So if anybody has any comments or thoughts on that, you can let us know. So again, this one's pretty heavy, so we're going to put it over here on its own side. And then we'll try to find a couple that are similar weights to put on the other areas. We've got all 4 frames loaded in there. We've got the lids back on, and we tried to get them as balanced as we could, but I know it's not going to be perfectly balanced, so we'll hold the thing kind of stationary a little bit and get it started to spin. You can see on the edges there, the honey is starting to fling off against the walls. Let me help hold it down. So we've extracted now, this is the 12th, the 9, 10, 11, and 12 frame that we have extracted. These are about half done, but the honey is now up to the bottom of the frames in the bottom of the barrel. So we're going to have to go ahead and dump it. So this is the first honey that we're going to have coming out here. So we open the door, and we're going to run it through 2 different screens. There's a larger screen here on top, and then underneath is a smaller screen. So it's going to start running out now. Okay, so we finished extracting all the honey. We've got, between all these buckets here in different stages, we've got about 10 gallons altogether. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of let it sit, and we're going to try to fish off the top all of the cappings that are left, all the white stuff that's on top, and then what all's in that strainer over there. Let all the cappings float to the top, then we'll strain those off, then we'll dump it through a filter, and then we'll bottle it up. And so once we get that all taken care of, then we'll have the bottling step, and then it'll be all finished. Once we were done with all of the frames and everything, the frames went outside, and they're out to get robbed out by all the bees and get cleaned up. Okay, so here we have all of the supers are out. We got all the honey out of them. They're all sitting outside. We had this old dog crate thing that we just set them on top of. They can get in and around them. And all the bees from all the hives around, and ours and others around, are all coming in and taking and cleaning all the rest of this stuff out of here, and they'll take it back to their nest and then they can use it. We also got the honey extractor up there taken apart. They're going to clean that thing out somewhat, and then I'll wash that out the rest of the way. We did have a little bit of trouble with this. We had originally that drill hooked on it. That didn't work, so we went back to the handle on it. I think what we're going to do next year is they actually sell a little motor unit that mounts on top of it. We're going to do that, and then I think I'm going to try to get something, haven't exactly figured out what yet, but some kind of a weight for the base of it with maybe some stronger legs. This was a really cheap one. We got a really good deal on it. That's why we got it. But I think we need to get something to hold it down a little bit better, just to weight it down. And then we also need something that is going to keep it so it doesn't wobble all over the place. And then obviously the electric motor would be very handy for sure. Okay, so we got the honey into the buckets out of the extractor. We've got about probably 9 gallons altogether, somewhere around there. What we ended up doing was we got these filters that are like a cheesecloth material, and we put it into one bucket. The filter, it fits in there and has an elastic band around it on the top. Then we dumped the honey that was fresh from the extractor, which has all the chunks of wax and dead bees and whatever else happens to be in there, and then we dumped it into the bucket with the filter. Then once it is filtered out, then we will hang the filter like a sack above the bucket from the ceiling and let it drain for several hours. Once that's done, then we take the filter and put it in a bucket of water, and we're filtering the sugars out of the wax. Then once that's all done, we're going to hang the wax bag outside to dry for several hours, and then we can decide what we're going to do processing that into making things with it, or just making beeswax that we can use for other things. So what we did is we filtered the honey into this bucket that has a honey gate on it, and then we're filling all the individual little bottles. So coming out of there is the pure honey that's been filtered. All the chunks have been taken out of it, and it's all ready to go. So it's a pretty slow process getting into the bottles without making a mess all over the place. But we put a drop cloth down here on the floor to catch anything that might come out of it. Then as you can see over here to the left, these are all the ones we've done so far. We've actually done about twice this many so far. It's really not making much of a dent in the amount that's in the bucket there, so it is definitely, we're going to have a lot more than we have little bottles to put it in, so I think we're going to end up putting some of it in jars and things like that to try to store it. Okay, so all the honey is filtered and bottled and packaged, ready to go. This is about half of what we got all together. There's another group just like this. So all in all, the process wasn't too bad. We had a little bit of a learning curve in figuring out how to filter it and make it work out correctly from what we'd planned to start with. But everything worked out really well. It was about 9 gallons or so altogether. So we're going to have some labels to put on these and get them all finished up, and then we'll be, giving out to family members or gifts or people that want some. So all in all, it was a good project, and next year hopefully we expect to have maybe at least a third more, or maybe even twice as much more as we did this year. So hope everybody enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to click on the little bell in the bottom right corner of the screen to be notified next time we post another video. We try to post a video every Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. Mountain Time.